In this version of our sunny day sky, we're going to use something called a gradating process. We're basically going to gradate a color from dark to light. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay down our color, and then we're going to start adding water to it and just keep adding water as we get further down the page, and we're going to get a gradated effect of light to dark. And again, for this one, I'm going to use a wet into wet process. So I'm going to go ahead and wet my paper. Again, you really want to make sure that you have no pooling on your paper, guys. It'll just create spots or blooming, so we want to make sure we completely wipe the water off by making sure we're going side to side and getting the excess off, but still allowing a good enough amount of water to soak into the page so we get that really nice blending process going on. So again, I'm using my 3/4 inch flat brush here. It does the trick nice. So I'm just going to double check, making sure that I don't have any pooling. I'm going to wipe that water off the page, the excess, and then I'm just going to double check by kind of tilting my head to the side, making sure that it's all covered. Okay, looking pretty good. All right. So again, the wet into wet process allows us to blend colors softly. You can see I still have my colors from my previous version up here. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up some of that color again. This time I'm just going to go with the phthalo blue and the white. And I'm going to go for approximately that same original color. That kind of like medium valued blue sky. So again, that's just phthalo blue and white and some water, all right? And try to get a good enough amount of it again so that I can make it through without having to stop and remix. Now, this is a case where once you start, you don't want to go back and fiddle around with it too much. It's okay if it has striations in it or variations. And we're not looking to get a perfectly smooth transition from dark to light. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but we're going to concentrate on having a good watery mix here, having enough paint that when we start, we don't have to start mixing again. And then what we're going to concentrate on doing is putting down the paint and then cleaning our brush and adding water to it and just keep moving down the page. All right, so again, I'm using my 3/4 inch flat for this one. This usually works pretty good when we're just laying in that tone. It gets it fairly even. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the color. I'm going to add water to it as I move down. I'm going to get myself maybe, not quite a third of the page covered with some paint first. And now I'm just going to add some water to it. I'm going to add some water to that mix, and I'm going to keep going. See, I'm not going back and grabbing more paint, I'm just adding water to it. So that's going to lighten the value of it on its own. And you can see that it actually does work pretty good. I mean, I'm able to go from a fairly good medium valued sky at the top down to almost pure white at the bottom. And now I'm just going to take pure water and just kind of wash that out and bleed it out. And you can see that actually is a really nice gradation. And it's very tempting to sometimes go back and try to fix things, but we're not going to do that. You just sometimes with watercolor, what I'm doing here is getting that excess water off. With watercolor, sometimes our best thing is just to leave it alone. Sometimes that's your best friend. When you go back and fiddle around with things, it can mess things up. So that's called a gradated sky. And if you go out on a really sunny day where there aren't any clouds, this is the kind of sky you can see. You can see it a lot at the beach as well. All right, so one of the other little tips I want to give you is that when we take our tape off, we want to pull away. We want to go slowly. First of all, you want to make sure that your paper's absolutely dry. And I'm pulling away gently and slowly away from the paper, all right? I started out with a nice thin piece of tape here. Now another thing you want to try to do is make sure that you're pulling away from that paper slowly. You don't want to pull this way, because if the paper's wet at all, it'll tear. So what we want to try to do when we put our tape down is, this is your white border. So you want to take a little time to make sure that you're putting it down fairly evenly around your painting. And that's the thing that's so nice, is when you're done with your watercolor piece and it's all good and dry, you pull your tape off and you have this beautiful white crisp border, almost like having a little mat on your painting. So this is a gradated sky.